You know, I spent a year picking up on lots of bad design choices or development practices I see in fan games. But as I continue playing more of them, I just see even more things to pick up on. Of course, you know my targets in this video. Maybe you're wondering what could be so wrong with something as simple as surviving after 6 am. So many fan games are doing it after all. A lot. It's very common to see complaints about fan games being boring or repetitive. While the mechanics and enemies could be improved in many of them, people heavily underestimate the role that the winning condition plays in this. So with my team's deliberate research, I want to tell you why surviving until 6 am sucks in most fan games, and how to improve it if you insist on using it. Now, to be clear, surviving until 6 am can be fun if designed well and used in the right place. But first, let's address why it sucks more often than not. So why do we use the clock every time? Narrative context. Security guards work in shifts. Start at X, finish at Y. In FNaF, that would be 12 to 6 am. It makes sense, only narratively. Realism often comes in conflicts with fun in video games. That's hopefully nothing new to you. As enticing as it is to write a believable story, most people don't want to play a game that simulates an actual night shift job. Despite this, people still stick with it, sometimes because of realism, but also sometimes for being quote-unquote faithful. I don't know why it's such a common concern. Many of the things that the original FNaF games did were overlooked and excusable because of how different the games were at the time. That doesn't apply to the countless amount of fan games out there. Nobody's calling your fan game unfaithful for tweaking the original formula so that your game's fresh and fun. In fact, so many popular fan games have used a different winning condition for the better, and nobody complained. In Juniors, you win by catching the ghost. In Playtime with Percy, you win by playing with the handheld console. In A Bites at Freddy's, you win by completing orders. And in Tillerland, you win by luring and containing the animatronics. The list goes on. Some of these games would not be as popular as they are today if they followed traditions for every single aspect. In fact, just the different winning condition that they have makes them much more promising and exciting. And that's why I'm making a video dedicated to this topic, because it has a tremendous impact on how fun your game can be. So now that you have no excuses left, we can talk about the issues, and then talk about how to address them. Almost everyone who dislikes this winning condition describes it with the same word: boring. While that's true, I'm afraid nobody ever tries to answer why it's boring. Well, fear not, I've got you all covered. In many fan games, the nights drag on for too long, and going through the same gameplay loop every night doesn't help either. A night in a fan game is often 3 to 8 minutes, with some lunatics cranking it all the way up to 12 minutes. No worries, I've done the same thing before. With that said, you need some form of progress and evolution in the gameplay in order to maintain variety. Most fan games are very rhythmic and repetitive, where even 6 minutes can feel like a whole hour. Many fan games boil down to playing Simon Says with the animatronics in an often a specific order. Enemy A is here, click button A. Enemy B, button B, and so on. Repeats the cycle until 6 am. Now you might wonder what any of this has to do with surviving until 6 am. What is the issue with the winning condition itself? One of the primary tasks of a winning condition is to discourage or eliminate cheesy and repetitive playstyles. Having to survive until 6 am, however, not only encourages them, but also makes them the most viable strategy. You have no control over the time. No matter how skilled you are, the clock's not moving faster for you. Watch a max mode of not only the original FNaF games, but also the majority of its fan games. Everyone's strategy is clicking on the same few things on repeat. Winning conditions are meant to reward and acknowledge your skill, but surviving until 6 am challenges your patience more than your skill. In most fan games, your skill is demonstrated very clearly in the very first minute. It only asks you to wait, just sit down and stare at the screen for 6 minutes with no interruption. Oh, speaking of which, I should remind my fellow fan game developers that, if you can, please add a pause menu. Oftentimes pressing the escape key quits the night. I know most people cannot do this because of their incredible engine of choice, but even in fan games made with other engines, a pause menu is sometimes absent. So yeah, work on that one too. Anyways, this type of winning condition causes big trouble for punishments too. Dying in most fan games means starting the night at 12 am again, and no change in how the game plays out. In well-designed games, each death can be a learning and practicing experience. In many fan games though, you lose this luxury near instantly every time. Once you learn how to deal with an enemy, all that's left is how quickly you click on the right buttons. It all leads to the punishment becoming greater than the reward. Regardless of whether you die at 1 am or 5 am, the punishment is wiping your ass with all that progress. but all is well if you manage to beat the night, right? Maybe. So let's say you survive until 6 am. Congratulations! Now what's your reward for it? Maybe you think it's all trivial, maybe everyone's used to it. But just because we're used to something doesn't mean we like it. The players simply have no control over how the game plays out. And just because you like it doesn't mean everyone does. Plenty of people only play the first few nights in many of the official and fan-made games thanks to how repetitive they feel, even if they enjoy the mechanics. After all, there is a reason I'm telling you that surviving until 6 am sucks. But fear not if you insist on following traditions, because again, surviving until 6 am can be fun if designed right. The first and most obvious. Make the game shorter. If your gameplay revolves around repeating the same few actions, then the sooner the cycle ends, the better. Maybe also consider having only a single night. It's rather common among fangame developers to make the game longer, only to pad out runtime, just to make the game seem bigger. Like I said in my video about why fangames get cancelled, it's better to have one good night than 5 insufferable nights. That's right, take Too Many Nights, a roguelike take on FNaF. The first thing you notice in it is the length of each round. Even though you have to survive until 6 am, each night lasts only 1.5 minutes. The mechanics in the game can be prone to being repetitive, but the round ends before you feel it, and after each round, you have new enemies, perks, and penalties. The game evolves rapidly. Ironically enough, this game manages to keep people playing for a much longer time than most fan games, despite having much shorter nights. Another bonus of shorter nights is lighter punishments. Punishment works best in replayable games, which doesn't apply to most FNaF fan games. Unless you've made drastic changes to the gameplay like Too Many Nights, keep it to a minimum. Add variety or progression. It's too common to see games where they make the animatronics a little faster after each hour, but that's not a noticeable change. Maybe introduce new animatronics at a certain hour, change an enemy's behavior, add random events that change how you play even if temporarily. So many things you can do to keep the night from becoming a stale. Scripted sequences are another option, but that's a whole topic of its own. And sometimes if you can, give the player some control over the clock. Maybe add a high risk, high reward or a skill check mechanic that helps the player skip a portion of the night. Just make sure that the player can't cheese the whole night with it. Track the player's performance too. You could put rewards or achievements behind performance milestones in order to value the player's skill. If your game has limited power, for example, you can track how much the player reserves. Everyone can survive until 6 am, but can you do that with 30% of your power left? And of course, surviving until 6 am doesn't always have to mean victory. In A Shadow Over Freddy's, you have to finish your objectives before you reach 6 am, otherwise you die. By doing this, the game becomes progressively more intense as you get closer to 6 am, because now it's a countdown timer to avoid. And there you have it. I just told you the issues with this winning condition and how to improve it, in less time than a single night in Pop Goes. I know, I was just telling you why surviving until 6 am often sucks and how to make it more fun. It's not for no reason. Winning conditions play a massive role in how fun the game is. But I should remind you that you can always opt for a different winning condition if it works best. Although it's not going to make your game automatically better, it leaves more room for creativity and making unique levels. If there is one lesson to learn from this video, it would be not to force conventions into your game. In the end, you don't just want to make a game that looks or plays like FNaF, you want to make something fun. If you're going to spend so much time on making the game look good, sound good, have a good story, and run well on all computers, then you might as well run the extra mile and also make the game fun to play. With that being said, if surviving until 6 am is what you're moving forward with, then I just told you how to improve it. This was a topic I wanted to get off my chest for a while. Trying to bring up these things in a casual conversations might wreak havoc, but you can't interrupt me every second in a video format. Look, it's no sin to ask players to survive until 6 am. We've already done it many times. I'm just asking for a simple thing on behalf of all players. Do it with a reason and make it fun. You've got 6 hours to do it.